You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There is a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of August 4th, 2023. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance in Springfield, Illinois, home of You're Too Honest, Abe. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
Abraham Lincoln was always told, "You're too honest."
You're too honest. That's his. You're never going to make it in this profession, Abe. You're too honest. If you don't know what that's from, it's from our friend Bill, who's also an SOB who listens to this podcast, and a wonderful
long-time listener to the
long-time
podcast.
listener, and his lovely wife. And
Yep.
B, it's Trump's admonition to Mike Pence about why won't you break the law for me, you silly little man. You're too honest.
You're too honest.
Which up until that moment was definitely not true.
He sold out his honesty to be vice president to Donald Trump a long time ago.
Yes, he did.
And it is indictment week, and we are recording right now where there's all this breaking news about now Donald Trump has appeared in court today, and the next hearing is August 28th. And so while we are recording this, I'm sure many people are glued to their TV sets figuring out what's going to happen next. Just got, before we started recording, a little pep talk from Middle Child, who's home for the summer.
Right.
Talking about having positive energy and how you and I have positive energy and how important that is when you're communicating. She's got a lot of ideas about things. And, and she said, but, I don't know how that works when you guys are talking about atrocities all the time. And I said, well, our purpose in this podcast is to give people vocabulary to talk about the bad things that are happening and put them in context, and also poke fun and criticize those people who refuse to acknowledge that they are, atrocities, and try to both sides atrocities and so forth. So we have a purpose that is positive, I think.
Well,
even though there's a lot going on, especially this week, it seems like the entire podcast is reporting on the BS that Republicans are and their enablers are trying to push this week, because it's a bad week for them.
What we hope to be able to do in this, our 733rd episode of the Professional Left podcast, going back 13 years.
No, you and I have been married 12 years this month.
Married 12 years this month.
Yeah.
Podcasting 13 years. So we were having podcasting before marriage. Okay. So I know it's not, the church says don't, and so on and so forth. But we were
my virtue is intact, Driftglass.
Right.
I don't care what the church says.
I said, I'm going to make an honest podcaster out of her.
That's what you did.
And that's why I took her down the aisle. Look, these are atrocities. These are horrible, crazy, bad, scary times we live through. But the thing that can make it more horrible and more scary is not to understand why they're happening. Yeah. This all just seems like random lunacy that has no rhyme or reason. It comes out of nowhere. It's the randomness of the madness. And what we're here hopefully to do is to say, no, it's not random. This is part of a continuum of behavior on the right and in the media that goes back a very, very, very long time.
Our entire adult life and then some. Yeah.
And the people who don't want to talk about that continuum or that trajectory are the people you see on television every day, because they were part of it. They were complicit. And they would really rather not talk about Donald Trump and all of his minions as the end product of a 40, 50-year Republican project, because that would make them deeply complicit, because they either didn't report on it or lied about it or covered up for it or were actively participating in it. So we hope to bring a little context to the lunacy. And speaking of which, we're going to start off with the most important member of the Republican Party until this very day.
Yeah, really. Cat Turd.
Yep.
We're going to start with Cat Turd. Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Cat Turd, who is quoted by the so-called ex-president of the United States.
A trusted advisor, a dear friend.
Trusted advisor to Donald Trump.
Yep.
sent out an X this week. Are we still calling them tweets? I guess
I am. I don't
guess
care
we
what
are.
Elmo
Okay.
says. I'm calling them tweets. It's still the Sears Tower, by the way. So yeah.
Cat Turd chided his former party. He's this is his former party now.
Oh no.
By saying, "Dear loser Republican Party, you have officially pushed us too far with your weakness. I, along with millions of others, will never vote for your party again, except on a very rare occasion."
Yeah.
Like when I vote.
Like every election from now until the day I die. Right.
When I decide to show up for an election, that will be the rare occasion. Okay. Getting back to Cat Turd and his, this is really more of a tome, I would say, to the loser Republican Party.
It's an angry breakup letter. It's what it is.
Breakup letter. And Cat Turd pays $8, we assume, because he's got a blue check. So he gets to write very long messages on Elon Musk's website. Okay. He is addressing, again, "Dear loser Republican Party, you are spineless, worthless, neocon, do-nothing cowards. You give zero value to your base."
Now, I don't disagree.
This is what a Driftglass could have written. That part of it.
I'd have to violate the writer's strike. But yeah, a couple sentences in here. Well, yeah, you're right. That's who they are. That's who they've always been.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for noticing.
And then Cat Turd writes, "Stop sending me requests to give you money. You'll never get a dime from me. After 40 years, guess what he's going to do, Driftglass?"
Oh, well, I can see it in our notes, but
I'll be registering as an independent.
Oh no, he's the independent.
I'm an independent.
No. We have things to say about the word independent, don't we, Blue Gal?
Especially I do. Apparently,
yes.
This is a thing now. And just to finish up, he's registering as an independent this week. "Good luck winning in the future without the America First MAGA vote. I'll vote for Trump, but never any one of you useless cowards again. And save your breath telling me this will be a vote for Democrats. What difference does it make?"
Oh, both sides, baby. Both sides.
They're
give it to me, Cat Turd.
They're actually arresting their political opponents, and you won't even give Adam Schiff a $5 fine or impeach anyone for anything. You're utterly useless. We used to call these farewell cruel world letters.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But the fact that I have this catchphrase of "I'm an independent" to make fun of people who are lifelong Republicans and always will be.
Yeah.
But cannot associate themselves with the embarrassment of actually being a Republican, so they become an independent.
Yes.
So I want to thank those people that, when I noted this on Twitter, thanks much to Brad, who said, "Yes, Blue Gal, your voice is always in my head on that word."
Yes.
Londo said, "I'm ruined. I can't see the word independent without hearing you saying it. And Mark went a step further and said, "I no longer see that phrase and not hear it in your voice. You've ruined my life."
Mark, she's ruined many a man's life. Let me tell you.
No, I have
She's many a man has shipwrecked themselves on the show.
So I wonder if he's going. You mentioned it as we were rehearsing the show. Yeah. That he might join the Forward Party.
Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he?
Maybe he could be Joe Manchin's running mate. Manchin Cat Turd 24?
No, Cat Turd Manchin 2020. Cat Turd brings all the votes to the yard. And
that's right. The MAGA vote.
Brings that.
Cat Turd Manchin.
Because as we know, the word independent, all independents are the same. They all believe the same things. They all enjoy the same moniker. They all think of themselves the same way, which is why Cat Turd will fit in really well with the Forward Party or my own Tesseract Party, which is a mocking of the Forward Party, but it's still independent. Or no labels. Why not no labels? They're independent.
I'm an independent constitutional conservative, though, Driftglass.
Yeah. I'm thinking
that's a man without a party.
Yeah, it's very sad.
A cat turd without a party.
Just floating in that big political toilet bowl all by himself. no one to flush him. No place to go. Just all by himself out there alone. And really, just a whiny little. Yeah. And this is this. I have read this letter in various forms so many times. Many Republicans.
It's been in the pages of our local newspaper from time to time.
Yeah.
My wife and I are registering as independents from now on. Yes. Right.
And it's almost never the other way.
No.
I mean, the last one I remember was like Andrew Sullivan 12 years ago going, this isn't the Republican Party I joined. Yeah, it is, dumbass. It is exactly the Republican Party you joined, and you joined it for exactly that reason. And the fact that they hate you and want you extinct finally penetrated your thick skull. But that didn't last for very long. But yeah, there's always, always, always a bunch of people who are going to, and who just won't shut up. Shut up and go away. Just shut up and go away. No, I have to announce to the world that I'm now an independent. And really, honest to God, let's move on to indictments, Blue Gal. The second story behind Cat Turd, a distant second.
Well, before we do that, I just want to note that you and I have been predicting this for a very long time.
Of course.
That this is the logical outcome of Trump.
Sure.
When Trump goes down was something that I wrote in 2017.
Yeah.
When Trump goes down, we are burning the lifeboats. There is no rebranding.
Oh, but there is, Blue Gal.
But it turns out there always is.
There always is. There's always money in the rebranding chat.
There always is. There always is a billionaire willing to start a forward party or some movement that gives a home to folks like Cat Turd.
Or a cable news station that's willing to stack itself to the ceiling with recently former Republicans who are now in the business of forgiving pretty much everybody. Chris Christie hated him a year ago. Now, Chris Christie.
He makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Give him a second look. So the whole idea is that they're trying to rehab. They're trying to rebuild the party outside the party. And Cat Turd is having none of it.
Right. Moving on, because we are going to talk a lot about the indictment today.
Yes, we are.
And you go ahead and start, Drip Glass.
Well, you and I both listened to the indictment.
Yes, we did.
We both did the audio version because we're nerds that way, and so
I listened to Ali Velshi read it on the Prosecuting Donald Trump podcast, which is where Andrew Weissman, who I now refer to as my lawyer. He bills me pajama to pajama, folks.
That's right.
Whenever he appears on TV, I go, hush, everybody. My lawyer's talking.
That's right. I thought about your case in the shower this morning.
Yeah. That'll be $45.
Oh, okay. And I listened to it at an obscure website called the Sean Connery's Ghost, where they have Sean Connery's ghost reading various things. No, they don't. No. I listened to the audio version. I listened to it at 1.7 or 1.5 speed because I wanted to get through it quick. But I listened to it in a very specific way because there's a million lawyers out there, including my wife's TV lawyer and Elie Mistal, and just a zillion lawyers. Mm-hmm. And you know what? If this moment in history has the benefit of having all of these legal minds crowd out all the opinion-having never-Trumpers, that's great. Yep. That's great, because that's exactly what we need right now for consumption by nerds like us.
To understand it, just to understand what's going on.
To understand the legalities.
Middle Child has had all kinds of questions about jury selection,
right,
and so forth, and it's just great to have these folks come on and give you legitimate, concise answers in English, which is the lawyer's job,
right, about
what's going to happen in court.
Yeah. So I did not listen to it as the former husband of a lawyer or my wife as the former wife of a lawyer. Mm-hmm. I listened to it as a writer, as a person who used to facilitate writing groups.
Well, you should mention that someone generated an AI of a reading of the indictment.
There's an AI we should really do this on this podcast. Look out. just dump like 4 versions of it into an AI and have them generate we'll call it a special bonus edition.
Honestly, maybe next April 1st we'll do that.
I want the voice of the robot from Lost in Space to talk about David Brooks for 20 minutes, and then Glenn Greenwald for 20 minutes, and then you saying, stop it.
Win Red. I'll do Win Red for 20 minutes.
There you go.
And then we'll be all set.
Bonus episode in April. But I listened to the AI version, which is just fine, and cranked it up to speed because I can listen to things fast. And I listened to it as a writer. And as a writer, it is a wonderful piece of writing. It is a novella. It is a beautiful novella. And I think about it this way. The J6 committee was the Russian novel, the sprawling, multi-generational, 1,000 characters, brilliantly well written, but very big
800
Russian
pages,
novel.
yes.
It's a brick. And I loved it, and you and I loved it, and it got great ratings, and people followed it, and that's fantastic. It was like, I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, Rich Man, Poor Man.
Yes, I am. I am very much old enough to remember Rich Man, Poor Man.
Nick Nolte, as I recall.
Absolutely.
And it was and there were the Thornbirds.
Yeah.
And there was Shogun.
Yeah.
And there was Roots, for goodness sakes.
There was Roots, but Roots was 5 nights in a row.
Yeah.
The thing too is it's the Russian novel, J6 Committee was the Russian novel where you read a quarter of it and put it down for 2 weeks.
Right. That's
and
right.
then you pick it up again. And the way that story had to be told in those chunks was a different way of absorbing it than this. I want you to get back to this.
Right.
But yeah.
And a lot of the J6 committee, and it shouldn't be called the J6 committee, it should be called, because J6 was the culmination. That was the point of the indictment. It's not January 6th, it's everything that preceded it. The footnotes to the giant novel are the other hearings that were happening outside that weren't televised or just recorded, etc. Big, sprawling literary thing. This is a tight novella, a 45-page, fast-moving, excellent story. I want to talk to the people who wrote the thing. I want to talk to the people who constructed this, because it's built like a goddamn story. It's built like a crime novel, fast, fast, fast. First of all,
you've taught this. You have taught how to structure a story with
plot.
An arc, right?
Yeah.
And this has an arc.
It
right?
does. First of all, it uses a very good framing device, which is at the beginning, there's this thing about, co-conspirators and collaborators known and unknown to this committee, blah, blah, blah. It ends on the same sentence it begins with. It doesn't circle back to it. It just frames it out properly. But it's a play in 4 acts. It's a novel in 4 acts. We start off with these people tried to steal the election. They tried to pretend the election was full of holes, and there was all this falsification going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that failed, which led to the second chapter, which was, okay, what do we do now? Well, and I liken it to, I was trying to think of a way to explain it to normies. And here's how I would explain it as a book. It's a short story or novella about a bunch of idiots trying to knock off a casino. Okay? The first chapter is about these idiots trying to cheat the casino. They're counting cards, they're using loaded dice, and they get caught, and it fails. And so, oh, crap, what do we do? Second thing is, well, we're going to try to pass ourselves off as authorized personnel who can go into the back and steal the fucking money. That was the false electors scheme. We're going to try to doctor up a bunch of people, give them false badges and false IDs, and send them to the rear to steal the money. Because the goal is always to steal the money from the casino. It's always to overturn the election. Everything's leading to that. That plot fails. What's the third plot? Well, the third is we're going to get the guy at the front door who's in the gold lame jacket, who's the greeter, who's there purely for symbolic reasons. And his name is going to be Mike Pence. And we're going to say, Mike Pence, we know you're just the greeter at the door, but secretly in the Constitution, there's this thing that allows you the authority to go into the vault, take all the money, and give it to us. So why don't you go do that? And that didn't work. And so fourth chapter, final chapter is, screw it, we're going to blow the vault. We're going to storm the Capitol. We're going to use violence to knock off the casino and steal it outright, because everything else has failed.
And while there's chaos and explosions and fire, we're going to take the safe and put it in a van and say, look what Antifa did.
Yes.
And that's the Insurrection Act. We're going to use the Insurrection Act, right?
To arrest and punish all the people who had nothing to do with this. All the people who were involved in the actual thing, because it will cause riot in the streets. Well, we'll put the riots down by using the Insurrection Act. We'll create the chaos that we'll then use it as an excuse to put it all down. But it's written like a novel. And it's written in very tight language, and it's very specific, very, very specific. If you do a word cloud of the indictment, you will see the word knowingly show up in big, bold letters. It is very clear right off the top that Donald Trump knew what the hell he was doing. This is not accidental. He had people telling him every step of the way. That's why reading it as a piece of literature is so thrilling, honestly, because we told you that you're wrong and there's no falsification. And then Donald Trump goes off and tells people it's all falsified. And they tell him again the same thing. And he tries another step. And they tell him, no, we've told you 5 times now. The Attorney General, Assistant Attorney General, all the people involved are telling you this. No, there was no fraud. Everything's fine. All this shit you're talking about is bullshit. And he does it a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth time. And then finally starts a riot because of it. And that's where it gets to be the arraignment. Because, and you want to talk about all the bullshit being pumped through.
Yeah, I want to talk about all the bullshit being pumped through the right-wing media right now of them throwing, and this is just content jello. This isn't legal jello.
Right.
and many people, including my TV lawyer, one of my other TV lawyers, has said this. All of this is for Fox News consumption. It is not legal arguments. But the initial response to the indictment was, oh my God, they are trying to restrict Donald Trump's First Amendment rights to free expression. He's allowed to have an opinion about the election, and he's allowed to speak that opinion. And how dare they? How dare they? And if they had read the indictment,
right?
The indictment starts with the dramatis personae.
It does. It introduces the
who
major
is
player
that they're going to charge Trump. He's got 6 unindicted co-conspirators who are clearly going to be indicted co-conspirators at some point,
yes, they are.
Unless they flip. And I think this was just so brilliant to, put the puzzle out there of who are all of these people, and know that you have a choice. Here, you're one of the 6, and you have a choice. You can either flip on Trump or you can be indicted. And you read this dramatis personae, and then you turn the page to page 2.
Page 2.
Page 2, number 3. And page 2, number 3 says, the defendant had a right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election. And even to claim falsely that there had been outcome determinative fraud during the election and that he had won. He has a right to do all of that.
Yep.
He also was entitled to formally challenge the results of the election through lawful and appropriate means, such as by seeking recounts or audits of the popular vote in states or filing lawsuits challenging ballots and procedures. Indeed, in many cases, the defendant did pursue these methods of contesting the election results. His efforts to change the outcome in any state through recounts, audits, or legal challenges was uniformly unsuccessful.
Right.
Now, that is directed precisely and exactly at Trump. You're a failure.
Right. Right.
Number 4, then, I'm just going to read 2 sentences of it. Shortly after Election Day, the defendant also pursued unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and subverting the election results. In so doing, the defendant perpetrated 3 criminal conspiracies. Fox News did not want this on the air.
No.
They don't want any of their viewers to read this.
Because this is their defense. The defense is Donald Trump has every right to lie and lie and lie, just like we do.
Right.
Every right to lie all he wants, whenever he wants, about whatever he wants, and it's his First Amendment right to do so. But right in the beginning, like Romeo and Juliet, there's a prologue, which is, well, of course he has the right to lie. He's a liar. He can lie all he wants, but he can't do the following things. Once he's exhausted all of his legal remedies, once he's tried everything he can do to legally challenge the election and have it fail every time, here's all the shit you can't do because it's against the goddamn law. And that's the rest of the indictment. And that's the part that nobody on Fox and nobody on Newsmax and none of your crazy young liberties are going to talk about. But it's right up front for anybody who wants to see it.
Yep.
Now, this was a week when Donald Trump was indicted and went to court, and it went off like a bomb. So let's take a quick go around the horn to see what people were talking about during this crazy-ass week of indictments and so forth. And I'll start off, if you don't mind, Blue Gal.
No, that's fine.
Quote, I'm not entirely confident that Joe Biden really had no inkling of what his son was up to, or that the larger Biden family didn't benefit from Hunter's shenanigans. That would be New York Times op-ed writer Bret Stephens.
My God.
Who still has a goddamn job on the goddamn paper for reasons that I will go into over a beer with all of you someday, but not for the record.
All right. Listen to this excuse. Quote, no one should really get hung up, as sometimes Republicans want to do, on whether sufficient proof exists to convict Joe Biden of a financial crime. That's irrelevant here.
Yeah.
That was Laura Ingraham on Fox News.
Yeah. Proof schmoof.
Proof schmoof.
This is Fox. You don't need proof. You don't need facts. We got me. Look at me.
Don't get hung up, Republicans, on finding proof.
This is, quote, to save the DOJ's rapidly deteriorating reputation, it is high time for Attorney General Merrick Garland to appoint a special counselor to what? To investigate the Bidens. That is a joint column written by unreconstructed torture advocate and the Emmanuel S. Heller Professor of Law at the University of California, Berkeley, John Yoo, and Federalist Society stalactite named John Shu. And that was in the National Review, which is full-throatedly endorsing that this is all a terrible, terrible miscarriage of justice, and Donald Trump's getting screwed. So, what do you expect from these people?
John Yoo doesn't have a reputation to deteriorate.
No.
So.
No, he doesn't.
And I wonder if he wants to hire John Durham to be that special counsel to investigate the Biden, since he did so well last time.
Oh, he did great. He did well in the memory of conservatives. I'm sure he did great and proved everything, and the whole system was just rigged against him, because that's how you remember things on the right.
Might as well get Durham in there again
for
another. Maybe he could spend $10 million this time instead of just $7 million of taxpayer money.
Yeah,
going to Italy and stuff. Hunter Biden and Clarence Thomas both show what happens when lax rules let unethical people get away with legal sleaze.
Yeah.
So it's Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. And which court does Hunter Biden sit on?
Well, Allison Hanschel, Athena, said, "Holy shit, Joe Biden appointed Hunter to the Supreme Court? Really?
Cool.
Wow, I must have missed that." Yeah.
Yeah. That was Jonathan Chait.
Yeah.
And you write, Driftglass, Jonathan Chait has a tiny bomb in his skull, which will explode if he doesn't both sides literally everything.
Yeah. You know what this echoes of, darling?
What?
David Brooks, the Tom DeLays on the right and the Netroots Tom DeLays on the left. It really is.
One of them is the House Majority Leader, and the other is
a bunch of bloggers who are not guilty of anything. Who just nominated Ned fucking Lamont. Yeah. But that's the end of civilization, according to David Brooks, circa 2006.
Yeah.
Now, because we've had AI already for years. It's called the New York Times op-ed page. And it's just the same, they have human faces. They got to hire people to pretend that they're actually, writing this stuff, but it's the same algorithm over and over again.
Yeah.
Here we go. Speaking of algorithms and cyborgs sent from the future to destroy America.
Oh, now you gave it away,
I'm sorry. Jack Smith, an American Javert, should be obliged to prosecute this case outside of the Beltway. Former President Trump deserves a fair trial on these unprecedented charges, which will strike tens of millions of Americans who are idiots as a political witch hunt. No. I amended that because it needed to be said. This is former MSNBC employee who had his own show, you might remember, until 5 minutes ago, Hugh Hewitt. Now, important point. I do not follow Hugh Hewitt on the Twitter. So why this garbage keeps getting tossed over the Twitter fence onto my timeline is unclear. But whoever's doing it, Elmo, cut it out.
Here's another one. Tim Scott is an honorable man and a good public servant. If you wanted to provide a role model for elected Republicans, he'd be one of a handful you'd recommend. That's Stephen Hayes, who went from being a Fox News Republican to an NBC News Republican.
Yeah, overnight,
because he and Jonah Goldberg thought that Tucker Carlson had gone.
Tucker Carlson's documentary.
Denial,
it was too much.
Denialism was just a bridge too far for them. They called their agent and made sure they had a secure job at another network, and then they threw up their hands and quit.
Yeah, but up until the moment when Tucker Carlson was advocating violent overthrow of the government on Fox News, they were pretty cool working there. But that was just too far. And this was part of a larger thing where, Tim Scott just made a mistake. It's a poor judgment, et cetera, because now he's jumped on the defend Trump bandwagon. Like, no, dude, they're all this way. All this way. Push them hard enough and they'll show themselves for who they really are. Finally, I am calling on all Republican candidates for president to immediately suspend their campaigns, stop wasting hard-earned donor money, oh Jesus, and rally around our nominee, President Donald J. Trump. That's the imaginary governor of Arizona named Kari Lake, who knows a little something about spending hard-earned donor money on stupid things.
She spent all of her Arizona First donor money traveling to Mar-a-Lago.
Yes. To go to whisper in Donald Trump's
ear. Hang out in a bikini and
yeah. Does this bikini make me look vice presidential? Tell me, Donald. Yeah.
Yeah, and the rest of the time she's writing in her notebook, Mrs. Vice President.
Mrs. Vice President.
Yeah.
Mrs. Lake Trump. Lake Trump. It sounds like a beautiful place to vacation. Lake Trump. Yeah.
So this brings us to some more from the media. And this quote from Will Stansel on Twitter, quote, Biden is mostly a good president and the economy is mostly great, but the evidence suggests that people think Biden is a bad president and the economy is bad. This raises the question of where people get their ideas about politics, because it sure isn't objective observation, unquote. Those people.
People, where do the people get these crazy ideas? Where do those ideas come from, Blue Gal?
So Greg Sargent at WAPO has numbers that will surprise no one who listens to this podcast. Headline, Trump has, quote, my Kevin, unquote, trapped. They mean Kevin McCarthy.
Yep.
New data on Fox News viewers shows why. And I don't have to go through all of the detail of this, but suffice it to say that the vast majority of Republicans who get their news from Fox or from Newsmax think Donald Trump is completely innocent, that the Republican Party must stand by Trump, and that in trying to overturn the 2020 election, Donald Trump was merely exercising his right to contest the outcome.
Yep.
And if you don't get your news from Fox, those numbers are significantly lower.
Yes, they are.
All right.
And here's the thing. We did a whole No Fair Remembering Stuff podcast on Fox News.
Yep.
Just last week, I do believe,
Yeah,
Blue
a
Gal.
couple weeks ago. Yeah,
No
a couple
Fair
episodes ago. Yep.
Yeah. And it's out there. And if you want to listen to it, et cetera, the pollution Fox News was pumping into the mainstream of our politics goes back decades, not 20 minutes. And there's a whole documentary written about it, and you'll love that podcast. But let's return to the present, because how will the Republican base handle the indictment, given all you people know, very smart people, all of our smart, clever listeners know about the base? How will they handle the indictment and all this next year of hearings and leaks and so on and so forth? And the sad truth is, we already know.
Yeah,
we already know exactly how they'll do it. And I'm going to compare it to something that happened to us on June 29th this year, the Springfield derecho, which is the 5 tornadoes that hit Springfield all at once and did a lot of damage, et cetera. So think of that, what's happening to the right, as the political equivalent of that. So here's the thing. For such disasters, there is a procedure, a well-known procedure. And Republicans react like Midwesterners like us react to the sirens. We know what to do. When the bad thing happens, we know what to do. You grab the critical stuff. You grab the cats and the kids and the vital papers and the phones and the meds and the flashlight and so forth, and some water, because you don't know how long it's going to be. And you haul ass to the basement, right?
Right.
You wait it out. You wait for the storm to pass. It shakes and it's a little bit scary, but if you're lucky, everything's fine. And when it's safe to come up, you take a look out and see what damage it is. And you check out your house. You check out your immediate area. And if you're okay, you check out your neighbor. Now, the power's out and the cell towers are down. So your next priority is try to understand the larger context of what has happened to you. How widespread is the damage and how many people are without power? And most importantly, when will things start to get better? And then very quickly, the Newsmax and Fox News and hate radio repair crews show up with support from USA Today and the New York Times and cable news and on, and things start to return to normal. And there are regular updates on how much more normal everything is becoming. Things are getting back to the way they used to be, Blue Gal. Reagan, Hunter Biden's laptop. And in a few days, it's as if it never happened.
Yeah.
It has passed. Yeah. Everything's back to normal. Everything's cool. And I have in my notes here to mention Doctor Who and the Silence. The Silence is a Doctor Who villain. The Silence have been around on Earth for thousands of years. The Silence are tall, thin creatures, black and white with big hollow skull-like eyes, and they're terrifying, and they wear like damp black suits, and they can hover in the air, and they can kill you with electricity coming from their hands. But here's their secret power. And here's why they get away with tampering with human history over the course of centuries. Because when you see them, they're terrifying. If you're looking directly at them, they're terrifying. The minute you turn your back, you completely forget they were there. You have no recollection of them ever existing at all. And it happens over and over again. And one of the ways they defeat them is by understanding that they exist, and they start to put little hash marks on their arms. Every time one of our protagonist sees one, they put a hashtag on their arm, and they look up and they're terrified. And then something distracts them. They turn away and they completely forget about it. They look at their arm, and where there used to be one hashtag, there's 30 now. They realize, holy shit, I've had 30 encounters with these monsters, and I don't remember any of them. That is the power of forgetting shit. And that is the power that the right has. Your crazy Uncle Liberty will remember none of this. The only thing he's going to remember is that Donald Trump was persecuted by the Democrats, by the commie, filthy Democrats, that a lot of Republicans turned their back on him because they're a bunch of rhinos, and they're squishes, and they're really secretly liberal commies, and that Donald Trump is being unfairly dragged through the streets because he was the greatest president ever and never told a lie, or if he did, he had to because of Democrats. And by the way, Hunter Biden's laptop and Burisma, and what about her emails, huh? What about those emails? That's all these people are going to remember. So the only way to make them kind of pay attention is to do what you do with the silence, which is never take your eyes off it. And the only way these people who are going to have any change in their demeanor is if you grab them by the hair and force them to watch every stinking minute of the trial and never let them get a breath in. Just pound away all the time that, no, Donald Trump's a crook, and you're an idiot, and you're a racist, and you're an idiot and a crook, and your party is full of criminals, and here's the proof, and here's the proof. Don't let them talk to you any other way. Don't let them get a word in edgewise. Just keep hammering away. That won't change them, but it might demoralize them enough to a few of them will stay home and go,
oh,
well,
I think that's what we're seeing. And I think that's what the whole cat turd thing is about. They're going to retreat. And let's face it, a lot of people started voting with Donald Trump because he was saying what they were thinking and blah, blah, blah. And no one can replace Donald Trump in their hearts. So they're going to retreat. They're going to stop voting. They're going to go back to, and we don't know what it's going to be yet. Is it going to be religion or country music or NASCAR or, the Klan? Yeah. I mean, that's the scary part is, are they going to go to their gun closet and get violent? That's what everybody's terrified of. Yep. But yeah, Cat Turd has given up voting, except in very rare instances. Right. Yeah.
But we know who these people are, and we can tell you what they're going to do pretty closely accurate to how they actually behave. So tune in to this station every week, and we'll give you updates on what your crazy neighbors are probably going to do. Now, what was your favorite line from the indictment?
I think we had the same favorite line from the indictment.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
You go right ahead.
Oh, well, when a top Trump advisor warned about the effort to overturn the election quite clearly, quote, "I'll obviously hustle to help out on all fronts, but it's tough to own any of this when it's all just conspiracy shit beamed down from the mothership." This was from an unnamed senior campaign advisor who wrote an email on December 8th, 2020, referring to Trump's elite strike force, led by, unindicted co-conspirator number 6, Rudy Giuliani.
No, number 1. He's number one.
That's right. He's number 1 with a bullet.
With a bullet, yes.
Now, we here in the Cornfield Resistance, we refer to, quote, conspiracy shit beamed down from the mothership by its more customary name, which is WTAX and WMAY, local right-wing talk radio.
Yep, that is conspiracy shit beamed down from the mothership, all right.
Every day. Just tune to your local station and you'll hear it for free every single day.
From the AP and retweeted by Trip Gabriel, national political correspondent at the New York Times. And I just want you to listen to this headline and see if you can find out what's wrong with it. Quote, RFK Jr. says he's not anti-vaccine. His record shows the opposite. It's one of many inconsistencies.
Oh, call on me.
Driftglass, what do you have to say about that?
It's a lie. What he's talking about is a lie. Not inconsistency, not opposite. It's a lie. And
RFK Jr. is lying about his record, would save you a whole lot of characters in your title.
Really? Now, it might be the last thing you wrote for the AP because they don't like that sort of thing. But it's really simple. He's lying. He's lying a lot. And he's on record. And maybe he's got so much goop in his head and so much steroid and so much nonsense. He doesn't realize it. Maybe he's just nuts. But he's lying. He's lying a lot. And it's no sin against the New York Times style book to say that.
Right. And I want to go back. You and I have talked a lot this week about Network and Peter Finch and the Oscar-winning performance that he did in that movie of We've Got to Get Mad. that we're watching this trial and people are posting pictures of champagne glasses and popcorn and, finally something's happening. I think we've got to get mad. And that doesn't mean rioting in the streets, but it means that when this comes up, show a little bit of ire that your vote was interfered with.
Yeah, stolen. Someone tried to steal your vote.
I voted for Biden, and you can vote for Trump if you want to. You're an American citizen who can vote any way you want. That's what democracy, that's what's great about our country. You can vote any way you want. I can vote any way we want. But when the votes are counted, you don't screw around with that. You don't try to make a result that's different from the actual result of the vote. And Donald Trump did that. He messed with it. And it's interesting. Alex Wagner talked on Wednesday night about how this indictment is local news in Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, New Mexico, and Georgia because of the fake electors. And going after this fake elector conspiracy. And the indictment does say some of the fake electors were tricked by people working for the defendant to say, we're only going to use this if there's an actual legitimate question about the results of the election in your state. But we want to be ready. Well, I'm sorry you were tricked that way.
Right.
Maybe you're not accountable if you were tricked that way, but the people who tricked you are accountable. And so fake electors makes it a local story. So if this indictment comes up in conversation with people, I'm going to use the Cokie Roberts rule. It's out there.
It's out there. It's out there. You got to talk about it.
You have to talk about it. It's out there. And if you can make it a local story and say, look, they attacked the voters in our state, the results of our state's election. Do you understand how horrible that is? Our state, whether you're in Nevada or Georgia or Pennsylvania, wherever you are, how dare he say that Pennsylvania's vote is able to be interfered with?
Right.
And if you can't make it local because you're not in one of those states and you're in Illinois, you say, look, my vote matters as much as yours. And he tried to steal my vote.
Yes, he did.
And make it illegitimate. And it's not illegitimate. I'm an American citizen. I live here. I vote here. And my vote counts as much as yours. And get a little bit mad. I'm not asking people to start getting violent with people. But if you're talking about it in the hairdresser, barbershop, or grocery store, and somebody brings this up, isn't it just terrible how Donald Trump's being treated by the media? It's like, Donald Trump tried to steal my vote.
Almost got away with it, too.
And almost got away with it. And used his own people, and his own people went to jail. And he has spent how much of his campaign money on his legal defense? I thought he was a billionaire.
Yeah.
But he stole my vote.
The money that you probably sent him, my imaginary neighbor, the money, the $5, $10 that you probably sent him, he spent on lawyers because he tried to steal the election. He tried to steal my vote. And he damn near got away with it because he sent an armed mob to my capital to steal my vote. And
to our capital. I'm willing to call it our capital.
Well, and why doesn't that make you mad? Why aren't you upset about that? And if you hear Hunter Biden's laptop, turn on your heel and walk away because you're dealing with a reprogrammable meat bag.
Right.
And I think it's time to do a news roundup. Don't you think,
it's time to do a news roundup, Driftglass.
Yep.
Breaking news today.
Yep.
Ron DeSantis in New Hampshire discusses his plans for the federal workforce. We are going to start slitting throats on day one, he says.
His language isn't aggressive and violent enough.
Yeah.
Now, Rudy Giuliani, you might not know this, Blue Gal. You might not know this. He's not just unindicted co-conspirator number one. He's also an anti-Semitic asshole and a sexual degenerate. And Lordy, there are tapes.
It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. Don't read this story. Don't read the story.
No, you can read it if
it's disgusting.
Want,
yeah.
But his language is disgusting.
Yeah, well, and it's, he's a drunken old pervert and an asshole and a mean-spirited freak, which is why he's Donald Trump's number one guy. Anyway, I'm just going to read the first couple of paragraphs, which don't have the explicit language. If you want to dip right into the R-rated version of this, the X-rated version, go right to Rolling Stone, because that's where I'm quoting from. Quote, Rudy Giuliani was sued for sexual harassment earlier this year by Noelle Dunphy, a former staffer at his firm. The lawsuit included a wide array of disturbing allegations against the Trump-loving lawyer, from behaving erratically while drunk, which is really, let's face it, all the time, to exposing himself non-consensually, to demanding sexual favors, to making various sexist and racist remarks. Giuliani denied everything. smearing Dunphy and asking the court to strike portions of the lawsuit and sanction her and her lawyer. Dunphy and her lawyer responded on Monday by asking for Giuliani and his lawyer to be sanctioned. Here it comes. They included audio transcripts of Giuliani saying exactly the kind of things he denied he was saying. And folks, it's not great. The transcripts include a host of truly vile, bigoted remarks, as well as some of the creepiest come-ons the mind can imagine, unquote.
It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. And what do you expect from a bottom-feeding pervert like Giuliani?
Who is drunk all the time.
Who's drunk all the time. These really are the dregs of the Third Reich in the bunker trying to figure out what they're going to do next. And some just get drunk and make fools of themselves. Some are looting treasures. Some are putting on women's clothes and trying to get out of there. But these are the bottom of the American gene pool. And your Republican Party thinks they should be put back in office.
And I want to say, Hunter Biden was a drug addict and got clean. It is not too late for Rudy Giuliani to go to rehab.
No, never too late.
It's never too late.
You know who else was a druggie and a drunk and got rehab and stopped screwing his life up? George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Cocaine drunken George. You remember him? Killed somebody with his car, hit somebody with his car.
That was his wife. That was his wife.
That was his wife.
With his car.
But his lawyer got him out of a bunch of shit, and that's how he became Attorney General. He was an embarrassment to the family. And then he cleaned himself up and became a national disgrace and disaster. But that's a separate story.
That's a separate story. Mm-hmm. It's not too late. Try to get Rudy to go to rehab.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone cares about him.
No, I don't think they do.
That's the thing. Nobody cares enough.
The only thing he's good for is a disposable human IED that Donald Trump can use to keep himself out of jail. And now now that usefulness is at an end.
And let's face it, he's this is more embarrassing than the Borat movie. These tapes.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. All right. Another whistleblower, another nothing burger from Jim Jordan, James Comer and company.
Yeah.
After days of saying Devon Archer would spill the beans on President Biden, there's always, some enormous proof right over the horizon.
Sure.
Sean.
Devon's the number 3 guy in the Taliban, I believe. And,
Devon Archer, number 3 in the Taliban. No. He did the opposite. Archer testified that Joe Biden never discussed any business with Hunter and his associates. He also said point blank, there was no bribe from Burisma to Joe or Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And Philip Bump in the Washington Post today called James Comer a liar.
Yeah, good for you.
And also noted on Twitter that Comer is fundraising with lies about the Devon Archer testimony, which he did not attend. By the way, Comer was not in the hearing room while Devon Archer testified, but he did run over to Hannity and say, "We've got him now."
Uh-huh. And now all the meatheads have moved on because, again, once they glance away, they forget everything.
They forget everything.
Once the bank records come out, then we'll have the proof. There's always some proof over the horizon. And at no point, you might remember, Lugal, I had a long time professional exchange with conservatives I used to know back at the city of Chicago.
Yep.
And they would send me this shit. This was long before Trump. This was during the Obama years. Mm-hmm. And they would send me all same kind of bullshit, same kind of paranoid racist thinking. And they point out how it was debunked, and they point out how it was wrong. And they'd change the subject, and what about, then they move on to the next thing. And I repeatedly said, have you noticed that the last 9 things you've sent me as conspiracies have all turned out to be true? At what point do you stop believing this bullshit? And then they'd, what about Barack Obama and his tan suit and blah, 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 blah. And what about a local sports team? And they'd forget it. They never learn. That's their virtue. That's why they're useful to the GOP. They're incapable of learning or changing. And a whole bunch of them got together to elect the governor of Arkansas. And Brother Charlie Pierce has the result of that. This is a quote from Charlie Pierce, friend of the pod. A judge slapped a temporary hold on an Arkansas law that would criminalize librarians and bookstore owners from giving kids access to the bluest eye or something. Because you don't want these kids exposed to anything that's going to give them bad feels about racism.
Like Toni Morrison poetry.
Yeah, don't want that.
It's written by a black woman. We can't have that. Moms for Liberty. All right. This is an interesting story. Another one about RFK Jr. The RFK Jr. Super PAC got more than half its funds from GOP mega donor $5 million came from former Trump supporter Timothy Mellon, a.k.a. Cat Turd. No, I don't think so.
No, Cat Turd don't have that kind of money. Would you like to do the next one? Because it's VP Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and this is one of my favorite stories of the week because she handled this so well. And it should be a lesson to the governor of California, who apparently is going to debate Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
Ron DeSantis wanted to debate Kamala Harris, and he invited her to Florida to debate, the slave curriculum of slaves learn skills, right?
Uh-huh.
And here's what our vice president said. I'm here in Florida. Unlike Ron DeSantis, I think was her implication.
Yeah. I'm not using government vehicles to
I'm not
tour
doing
other
anything
states.
like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm here in Florida, and I will tell you, there is no round table, no lecture, no invitation we will accept to debate an undeniable fact.
Yeah.
There were no redeeming qualities of slavery.
Yeah.
This
Period.
is why Driftglass and I danced in the kitchen the
Yeah.
day we've heard that Joe Biden has selected Kamala Harris as his running mate.
Yep.
Because we knew he wanted to win.
He was serious about winning.
He was serious about winning.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to put the smartest black woman on the ticket with him.
Uh-huh.
And that she wasn't going to take any shit.
Right. And here's the thing. If you listen to Never Trump podcast, which I do, they're just horrified about her. They're just horrified because she's just weak and she's vacillating and she's this and she's that and she doesn't know how to do this. Like, no, she's doing vice president stuff.
Vice presidents are not there to be strong, powerful
we
policymakers.
We did a whole No Fair Remembering stuff about vice presidents you might have heard of.
Yeah.
And none of them were like tearing up the pea patch with their fiery rhetoric, except for Spiro Agnew. Because that's not the vice president's job. Right. Now, my impression is they're going to let her a lot more off the leash now because it's second term time.
Right.
And they want someone out there wearing a prosecutorial hat, which she has in her closet, doing a whole lot more sharp elbows and punching, which she's very good at. And I'm very glad to see it. But I'm not freaked out or panicked or like, Democrats have a Kamala problem.
No, they don't.
A bunch of fucking never Trumpers. Like, you know, because they're all running against her because Joe Biden's going to drop dead.
And white men.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on from that, that's just my 2 cents worth, whatever it's worth. According to a study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, after the COVID vaccine came out, the adjusted excess death rate in Ohio and Florida was 43% higher among Republican voters compared with Democratic voters. There is no such gap based on the political party before the vaccine. Remember, killing your own people for power is what cults do. That demonstrates their power.
Yeah, yeah. Chris Hayes had said something to the effect of, I can't understand why a movement would kill their own people this way. And you said this is Conan, where the real power is being able to snap your fingers and a woman jumps from a high cliff onto the ground and kills herself because you said so.
Right. That's power.
Right.
That's actual power.
Yeah. So that's what cults do.
The riddle of steel. That's right. Go look it up, people. Read a book, for God's sakes.
Read Conan the Barbarian.
Okay, read Conan the Barbarian. That's fine. Fair enough.
That's in your local library. I'm sure Moms for Liberty haven't gotten to that one yet.
I don't know. The cover art is pretty racy on those things.
It can be in the kids section. It's fine. Per Adam Parkamenko and Sam Youngman in the Today's Big Stuff newsletter, quote, Bill Barr went on CNN last night and absolutely torched every Trump defense that the New York Times bought, and then said he might vote for Trump next year if he's the nominee.
Uh-huh.
We're starting to think that Bill Barr fella is a real piece of shit. Unquote.
Unquote. Yeah, absolutely. And this is not the first time Barr's done this.
Yeah. Oh, no.
The whole bunch of these heroic Republicans who stand up and beat their chest about, he's gone too far, he's done this. What about if he's a nominee? Oh, I'll vote for him. Oh, I'll try to get him elected because the cult is stronger than anything else.
Right.
Trump's political committee has spent more than $40 million this year defending him and his aides and other allies. Despite the cash crunch, his Save America Leadership PAC shelled out another $108,000 in the first 6 months of the year for Melania's Trump's stylist, Hervé Pierre Braillard, while insisting to the FEC that it's for, quote, strategy consulting, unquote. On topic, when you donate to Trump, via WinRed, of course, hat tip blue gal, You're actually donating to both Donald J. Trump for President 2024 Incorporated and the Save America PAC as part of their, quote, joint fundraising committee, unquote, or, as they definitely say on their website, JFC.
JFC.
Yep.
Joint fundraising committee? No. Jesus effing Christ. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. A Georgia judge denied an effort by Trump to toss out evidence gathered by a special grand jury and remove the district attorney from the criminal investigation into his attempts to overturn the 2020 election laws in Georgia. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Robert McBurney said that while a highly publicized criminal investigation is likely an unwelcome and unpleasant experience, the quote-unquote injuries that Trump claimed to have suffered from the 2.5-year investigation, quote, are either insufficient or else speculative and unrealized because he hasn't been indicted yet. McBurney also noted that Trump is fundraising off of indictments, which leads the judge to question the term harm.
Yeah. Now, a completely different federal judge dismissed Trump's $475 million defamation suit against CNN. Now, you might remember this is the suit where Trump said, they call it the big lie. Nazis use the term big lie. They're calling me Hitler. I'm hurt. I'm bleeding all over the place. And the judge said, no, shut up. You're not. Go away. Don't ever darken my door again. But it's this bullshit. It's this litigious, try everything, throw everything in the courts, and maybe something will stick, which Donald Trump's been doing since he was in his 20s.
Right. Mm-hmm. We don't want anyone thinking we've forgotten what a piece of shit Ron DeSantis is.
No.
Per Axios, Ron DeSantis' gubernatorial office recently hired 3 people who'd been laid off by his campaign.
Huh.
So the taxpayers are paying
That's
these
weird.
Campaign people.
That's weird.
The Florida governor is leaning on his taxpayer-funded office to keep select aides in his orbit as the campaign goes through a cash shortfall that led it to dump 1/3 of its staff in July. This follows last week's story from the Orlando Sentinel. Quote, if it hadn't been for a fender bender on Interstate 75 near Chattanooga, Tennessee, Tuesday morning, most folks wouldn't know that Governor Ron DeSantis was using state government vehicles for his 2024 run for president. Tuesday's 4-vehicle collision on the way to a campaign fundraiser draws a curtain back on the campaign's use of state resources. But finding out who's paying for it is nearly impossible, thanks to a new law passed by the legislature, guess which party, to protect the governor's travel records from public view. The legislature has enabled him to hide his travel records, so we don't know and have no way to hold him accountable if he is using state resources in his campaign or if that is even the case, said Ben Wilcox, research director for Integrity Florida, a nonprofit government watchdog. It was frustrating enough when trying to monitor his use of government resources while traveling around the state, Representative Anna Eskmani said, but to take those people and vehicles out of state is even worse.
Yep, unquote. All right, we have one more item. It's local news, but it's about Ron DeSantis. So why do we have this garbage by dead man walking Ron DeSantis in our local news? You may ask. You may rightly ask. Well, I will answer that question in just a moment. This is the quote from Ron DeSantis. To the left, that'd be you and I, Blue Gal, citizenship is meaningless. Illinois is now letting illegal aliens become police officers. In Florida, we took action to combat the harms of Biden's border crisis. We also value our citizen officers who serve and protect our communities. As president, which will never happen, I will restore American sovereignty. No illegal alien should have authority over any American citizen. It's a sad commentary on the state of the United States that this is even a debate, unquote. The reason it's on our local thing, because our governor, J.B. Pritzker, slapped that smile right off his face. Here's J.B. Pritzker's reply. Quote, this man isn't smart enough to be president. I proudly signed the bill showing legal permanent residents and DACA recipients in Illinois to serve their communities as police officers. Our military already does it, the military that Ron DeSantis was in, and it's the right thing to do no matter what lies, there's that word again, lies, the right wing spreads, unquote. That's our governor. That's our JB president.
Go JB.
Yeah.
Go JB. This man isn't smart enough to be president. No kidding. But you know who else was pushing this lie? Mensa recipient Lauren Boebert was also pushing this lie this week.
That's two people.
How dare Illinois let illegals become police officers?
Shut your hole.
Because we're not.
Yeah. But
also, calling people illegals kind of shows you the kind of garbage person you are, Lauren.
Well, and the voters...
You're a garbage person.
And the voters who put her in office are
also garbage people.
Worse people.
Yep. I love you, Driftglass. I'm going to say that just to cleanse my palate.
Yes. Yeah.
And we love all of you out there. Thank you. In the last month, I've gotten some lovely birthday cards, and I am so grateful. Just sending me a birthday card. You know, it's just lovely. And I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. Each week we post to our Facebook page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is a sweet, sweet dog named Pickles. Pickles is so cute. A little white dog. And it's just a cutie. And of course, Pickles Eats Freshly Poured Pet Food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve Pet Store Perfection or Dollar Store Direct, your pets will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my Lord, it's freshly poured.
Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my Lord, it's freshly poured.
And you can visit Pickles at our Facebook page or website, and you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go, Postal Unions. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise. Don't forget our gourmet coffee guideline. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us. This is not charity. This is our job, and we love doing this podcast, so thank you so much for your support. Please share our show on social media, and if you love this podcast, please get someone else to listen to, and thank you for doing that. Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, this week the Internet Kitties have a safety tip. The Internet Kitties would like to remind everyone of this summertime tip. Never leave your pets or children unattended in a car, and don't store illegally retained classified documents in the toilet.
Let's think about living.
Think about living.
Let's think about loving.
Think about loving.
Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
A Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2023 DGBG Productions.